Hey guys, it's Chef JoJo with ECO, and I can't tell you how excited I am about today's guest. Now, this is a combo show of Leave It on the Line and Shift Drink. We're going to post this on a Sunday as our normal time, but this is bringing back the old episodes of Leave It on the Line. And it's the time that we get to take and sit down and really get to know people in our industry. And the young man that I'm talking to today is just an inspiration. Just talking about him gives me chill bumps. There's a long story about how we met and how things just kind of came to fruition. And it all started with an email, him reaching out, looking to help some kids in a neighborhood that is probably where everybody's struggling a lot more than they need to be. And he was teaching them how to cook, and he's like, hey, I got this junior chef competition. Please, can you help us out? And you know what? The one thing that, before I introduce him, I want to say that about ECO is that Extreme Culinary Outfitters is really about the heartbeat of our industry and how hard it is to make it. And what I want ECO to be is that brand that speaks the truth, that everybody feels good about wearing, and it reaches out and makes a difference. And when I got this letter from him, I was like, we got to do this. And Gina and I put our heads together and basically sent a nice little package so everybody would get something that was competing. And it felt good, and we'll get into that. But Chef Milas Williams is definitely somebody that, as I'm going and trying to push myself to be better than yesterday, I think of him a lot. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Chef Milas Williams. Hey, brother, how's it going today?
Hey, big bro, you doing all right today?
Yeah. I'm actually super excited because I've been putting this thing off for a little bit. Not putting it off, been trying to figure out how to do it. Now,
Exactly.
for everybody, Milas, you live and reside in San
San
Antonio.
Antonio, Texas.
That's right.
Yes.
And a couple of years ago, I had the privilege to get a chance to meet you in person. So in 2017, the family and I jumped in the car with a bunch of ECO swag and hats and stickers, and we went across the country. And you were one of the chefs that I really wanted to take we're going to San Antonio anyway, but one of the coolest things is that's where you were, and we took time out of the day and we went and came and we had some dinner and we just chatted and got to shake hands, wrap arms around each other, and say, it's good to finally meet you.
Exactly. It was your Extreme Culinary Outfitters road trip,
Yeah.
and we still have that sticker plastered at the bar
Oh,
on
dude.
the door, man. We still got it.
It was such a good time. The road trip in itself was something that, we drove back to the East Coast, and then I had to fly back to do a UFC and then back over and drive back or something like that. It was quite the experience, and Gina and the kids loved it. I think that was one of their favorite trips of all time. But they often talk about getting to meet chefs and see what they're doing. I don't think they'll forget it. And it was definitely a special trip for all of us. Now, I gotta let everybody know, when Milas first reached out, it was just an email, and I guess probably a shot in the dark, if you will, right? Like, you were like, okay, I'm just trying to reach out and get some stuff. And you wrote this really sweet letter and said, hey, I'm trying to make a difference, and I'm looking to help these kids get a skill. And we got a competition coming up. Would you be interested? And like I said before, we sent some stuff your way. What made you decide to start a culinary competition? Now, what neighborhood is everybody living in? Because it's all in one neighborhood. Is that, if I remember right?
It was all at the time. It was all on the east side of the city of San Antonio, where it needed help the most, as far as with the when the government was shutting down a lot of children's programs during the summer. You had the YMCA's, you had the basketball tournaments, the football tournaments, the volleyball tournaments, baseball tournaments, and stuff that was going on, and a lot of programs were being shut down. And so at that time, again, I was freshly coming home from incarceration. I had been home at that time almost 2 years, and I was just going around, and I was, beginning my career um, in the culinary field, but at the same time going to college. And when I seen the need of the programs, because I'm like, why? Everyone has this excuse that all our youngsters of this generation didn't they don't want to learn, they don't want to do this. Well, you're not taking the time. And so I sat back and I said, man, what about a junior chef? I was watching Food Network, and of course, we see the competitions on there, the Chopped, we see Iron Chef, we see Master Chef, we see all these, and I said, well, what if I was to bring that concept to the youth, to that child who is not even in culinary arts, it's not even trying to be a chef, but they cook at home for their siblings when their single parent mother is at work, or their grandmother or their grandfather is too old because they don't have their mother and their father in their life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I I took the competition, and it was just everything started like you said earlier as a shot in the dark. You know, and I was like, first I didn't know nothing about event planning. I didn't know nothing, and my mentor, Chef Johnny Hernandez, he was like, "This is what you want to do. I'm behind you, but I'm gonna give you the steps on how to break down the score sheets. This is what you do. This. And so I got the venue, which was at a high school here, Sam Houston High School, which is on the east side of San Antonio. At the time was one of that was labeled, one of the worst high schools, even though they
Yeah.
have good students come out, but it was one of those bad schools where all the bad kids are at,
Yeah.
you know, and they had just freshly opened up a culinary um, department, a culinary wing with a full kitchen and everything. And it was when I went, it was almost what 8, 9 students out of the whole class at that time to sign up. And so that's how the junior chef competition here in San Antonio started, man.
That
Just someone
yeah,
having a heart.
dude, I mean, it is so hard to pull off an event to begin with. And you went over there and you're like, "Okay, this is what I want to do." And I remember seeing you send pictures and like you just posted them because you're going on what year now? Like you moved it to August because of our current situation, right? It's in
Yes,
August now. Um,
August 8th. It'll be August 8th. That's what we're shooting for
what's
this year. It'll be 5 years.
man, 5 years, dude. That is so. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, that when you sent me pictures, and just to hear you tell the story, I don't know how many times I'm going to get chill bumps tonight, but probably a lot. Just to hear you tell the story, I'm basically fresh out of incarceration. I'm finishing up. You just finished your culinary program, and you were still in college and working, and you
Mhm.
were trying to put together this event. That's a lot at once. I don't care who you are. That's a lot. And you were hustling to make it happen. I mean that.
And mind you, not to cut you off, mind you, no help. It was all me.
Yeah.
It was all like, nobody. And I hate to say this, but nobody believed, when I told them the idea. Nobody, not one single soul. And then when I took it to Chef Johnny, because he was already running um, competitions, he was like, "Are you going to use students that are culinary?" I said, "No," and he says, "Whatever you do, let's go."
That's amazing.
And it took for him to push me, and the story on how I got connected with you, if you want me to start that.
Yeah, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
So everybody is telling me that it won't work. Everybody telling me, man, you first off, everybody think about money. And I said, nah, I don't care, man. God put it on my heart. And I just said, God, whatever you want me to do, man, because I got to help this community. I got to help these children. I don't want to be that dude where I'm interacting with children and children see me 15 years down the line and say, hey, man, do you remember on the city of San Antonio's east side at that event? I was there. And I don't want to look at him like, I remembered it, but I don't remember you. I want to remember that child. You know what I'm saying? And that's the in depthness on how we make it better for the next generation. When you can remember, because they remember you, and you're able to relate and remember them. And so I'm laying in the bed, and I'm right.
Wow.
I have a list. And I said, okay, Sam, venue's done. Sam Houston, they at first they didn't believe, because you got to remember, I was one of the bad students at that school
What?
before my
Okay, so
incarceration.
wait, did you go to this school? Or is that
I
your
went to
was that
Sam
your high
Houston.
school?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, that was my high school.
so I have
So
to
you got,
back up. Let me ask you a question. So here you are. You went to the high school. All the teachers remember you.
yeah,
Unfortunately, you're coming out of prison, and then you go to the school, and you're like, "All right, look, I'm in the culinary program, and I want to put on a competition series inside your school." How many people looked at you like you were crazy? All of them?
man, all of them. They gave me the runaround. Man, I
Ah,
remember one. I remember one time, one of the meetings, I was supposed to meet with the principal, and they literally let me stay seated out in the office in the front for almost 3 hours, and just to tell me that, oh, he's in a meeting and he can't see you. Let's reschedule. So the next time I come up there, and I come up there with an official flyer of the
mm-hmm.
Genius Chef competition before all the logos. At this time, now at that time, I was in the middle of talks with you. I had just talked to you, but we'll get to that. And I remember taking them, and on the logo, I told Chef John, I said, Chef John, I don't know how they give me the runaround. He says, put my image on there. And next time
Oh.
you go, he said, next time you go, I'm going to go with you. And so I went up there, dressed it just professionally, and I said, Chef Johnny, this dude who's been on Food Network and has restaurants around the world, owns La Gloria, he's going to be up here. And when I said that, the secretary's attendance office, she ran out and she said, I know who Chef Johnny is. I know. Oh my God. And then she just started creating a buzz. And I'm talking about now, everybody's like,
This the credit, like that's awesome. Like I was about to reference the 36 Chambers, where my man was out there trying to learn kung fu, and he sat in front of the gate
yeah,
for like 4 days, and the crap they basically wanted to, like, that makes my skin crawl, like it makes me angry to think. And you were just sitting there like, you know what, it's not about me. It's
yeah,
not. You probably had to say that to yourself so many times. You're sitting in that chair going, this dude here ain't gonna, he's not even gonna give me the time of day to come. And you just sat there and you did it
I said,
for the kids.
I thought about it, and I thought about saying, let me go find another school. Let me go find another venue, because at that time in the city of San Antonio, they had just passed a budget in the San Antonio Independent School District where where certain schools were getting culinary wings.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can go to Brackenridge High School. I can go to Burbank. I can go to Lanier, whatever, Memorial. And I said, no, I got to start here where I did wrong, and I got to make it right.
Dude,
And I sat there.
man, that just the trail that you have walked back through, like to fight the fight that you were fighting there, because it's not that could not have been easy. My heart, like, I have so much admiration for just sit there, and that he's probably not that busy, and that you
Yeah.
don't even know if he's and you just did it. And then thank God for your Chef Johnny. Now, how did you start working for Chef Johnny?
Well, Chef Johnny, when I came home, while I was incarcerated, I took internship, and I've been knowing some of the Hernandez family since I was a kid growing up, and I've seen some of them, and we always ran across each other or had classes at school.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, so when I was incarcerated, I was at the San Antonio Food Bank at the internship, the culinary arts internship that they had for my college at the time was Lee College while I was incarcerated. And Johnny had just finished coming back from New York, and he was up there talking. He was the keynote speaker at my graduation. And I remember, I said, Johnny, do you remember me? He looked, he says, you kind of got big, but I think I know who you are.
Ah,
And he said, and I said, Eli, and we talked, and he was like, look, on your way home, you need a job. I'll give you a chance. This is what you want to do. I'll give you a chance.
that's awesome.
And when I came home, I contacted executive chef David Delgado, who was the executive chef at the San Antonio Food Bank at that time. And he reached out to Johnny and says, hey, Milas is home. And he says, it wasn't no, oh, well, just tell him to go put an application in. He immediately, hey, call Chef Greg. Greg interview him, put him to work.
That's
And he gave
that's
me that chance, man.
that is so that's
And
awesome,
I
because it's so
proved,
tough.
yeah,
Because, like,
yeah.
now I'm sure all of our listeners is like, okay, how long were you in?
15 years. I went in when I was 19. I came out when I was 34.
Ooh, 15. You're coming out. You've been in for 15 solid years. How many years did it? When did you start the culinary side of the training, or when did inside?
Due to my crime, of course, was aggravated robbery. And here in Texas, they don't allow you to go to college or even like go into any type of higher learning other than the vocational until after you have served at least 5 years of your sentence on an aggravated sentence down here in Texas. So I had to wait 5 years
Oh man,
before I can even be considered to go into college.
wow. Now, was it something? I mean, when we talked, and I mean, we had a quick conversation. We were there about 2 hours, and we really never got into the logistics of what went down.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely were riding with a tough crew, right? You were in it. I've seen other interviews with you. Let's touch real briefly on that, or you can go into depth as once. But gang lifestyle, full on.
Mm-hmm.
What was the deal with the aggravated robbery? What really happened?
And that's the thing. I love when people ask me about my charge. I love when people ask me about why did I go down, because you can see a lot of people. One thing I learned while I was incarcerated, you have a lot of good people in there who just made the wrong mistake
Mm-hmm.
or had the wrong ideology on life. You know, a lot of people I went down and I was incarcerated with my brother and one of his friends, and we went down for aggravated robbery. And people say, well, you was a bad person. You did this. You was just robbing, but you don't know it was a reason behind that. Because if you're a product of your environment, and this is all you know how to get money, or have a part time job, that you really don't know how to have worth ethics,
Mm-hmm.
because worth ethics is not administered or trained in some households growing up.
Yep.
And so that's why you have a lot of spoiled kids.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard my mother argue with her medical insurance company that, because at the time in the 90s, to hear that a person had cancer was like taboo. It was like a death sentence.
Oh yeah.
And I heard her argue with the people about how she couldn't get treatment, and she was long overdue as far as payments, and they would stop the treatments. Well, I don't know. I didn't know. First of all, I didn't even know my mom had those symptoms. We just thought sometimes she gets sick, she
Oh,
goes to the
okay.
doctor, she come back in, and it's that.
Oh man, so that hit you
Um,
like a freight train. You
yeah,
found out.
and she didn't.
Oh.
Yes, I found out because she didn't know we was in the house. She didn't know I was in the house when she was had this conversation, and I was just like, I was distorted, and I told my brother, and we was like, man, we got to do it the best way we know how. We got to help Mama because she might die on us.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, man, after we got caught, we got arrested. My mom was the last person that I called, because my mom is a very strong woman, and she always said, "You ever get locked up, don't call me." Well, mothers, they say that out of being mad, but she really wanted me to call her. And when I finally called her after my sister told me, "Man, you need to call Mom," and I called her, and she like, "Why did you rob? Why did you? That's not how I raised you. I may not have raised you in the right environment, but I raised you in a nurturing home."
Oh
And I
damn.
was like,
Okay.
"Mom,"
Okay.
and I was like, "Ma, I heard you arguing." She was like, "You was in the house that day." She was like, "But I didn't need your help. I just needed you to go to school
Mm-hmm.
and graduate." And I graduated from high school. That was one of the things I did right before I got incarcerated. And she said, "I need you to go to school, graduate from high school, and make me proud of going to the military or going to college. Not this."
Mm-hmm.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks, man. And I went to prison,
So this
and my whole
that
mindset was to becoming a man.
wow, dude, that happened. So your mindset had already, from this one conversation with your mom, your mindset had already started to switch to like, oh shit, I got to do something that's going to be right. I've
Like,
basically messed up. I'm going to prison. This is going to suck like horrible. This is going to be
yeah,
rough. But you didn't, that had, going in with that mindset, that's, man, that's amazing, because it's got to be, because that's not an easy environment to come out of. You know, the
It's not.
system is not made
It's not.
for people to come. It's so
I remember.
difficult.
I, I remember one warden me being transferred to a unit, and the one warden he said, "What unit did you come off of?" And I told him the unit that was in North Texas, and he says, "Oh, they sent you there to break you. Did it work?" And I was 20. I was 19 when I went. I was 25 at that time when I got transferred. 26. 20, I was 26, going on 27. That's right, because it was I was going for college. Yeah.
They
He
sent
said
they sent you
they
there to
sent
break you.
and he said, "Did it work?" I said, "No."
Damn, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
I got nothing. I got nothing. I got nothing. Like that type of mindset is that's not every day. You don't come across people that can say when the warden's looking at you and they're like, "Hey, oh yeah, they sent you there to completely, utterly break you.
Yeah.
Did they do it?" And you're like, You're still on your path." So
Yeah. Yeah.
that, man, that's unwavering. And just recently, your brother got out too, right? Was that your?
Yes. Just recent. Yes. My brother. He recently was released last year. End
Okay.
of last year, August. Matter
See,
of fact.
I keep up on you. I stalk you on the Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm always like watching and keeping up with everything that's going on with you.
Thank you.
So that being said, that was you were that was 6 years in. You still had you had 9 years to go.
I had 9 years to go.
What was it like? And see, this is funny. This is not funny. I'm so intrigued. You had to go to learn how to cook inside inside prison or in a program, and it wasn't the culinary environment, right? Like everybody says, what was that experience like? Who was teaching you? Who was in there? And what were the classes set up like?
Now this is the part that I love to explain. They go in depth with. In prison, my job, because the Texas prisons don't pay inmates. We don't get like in California or whatnot, like $2 an hour or $2 a day. They don't pay us nothing. They
right. Well, it's Texas,
they figure,
right?
Yeah, it's Texas. They don't give us nothing. So they wonder why illegal stuff happen in prison because you don't pay. You don't got family, you don't got nothing. So you got to hustle. You got to do whatever you got to do to get toothpaste and deodorant. Now, I go to say this before I begin the in depthness of the conversation that you to answer your question. I believe that every chef out here in America, everywhere, who's ever listened to this, I believe that they should sign up and literally, I think they should make a program where every chef can voluntarily sign up to go in and cook along. You'll still be free, but cook alongside incarcerated brothers and sisters. Reason being, everything, especially down here in Texas, prisons are grown fresh. People don't know that. You see the slop and stuff that you see on TV. No, that's not true.
Really?
In Texas.
In Texas.
We we I, we slaughter our own food, our own meat. Our own beef. We can our own vegetables and fruit. We get fresh fruit in the summer, and so just imagine the nutrition that you're learning from the agricultural side when a person who coming from the city has never dug up a potato or planted a watermelon or butchered a hog. And so everything was natural. So when I went to college in there, they would put me on a bus and they transferred me to an actual. It was inside the compound of the walls, but they built an actual industrial kitchen, society like kitchen, and that was like my only piece of freedom every day when I went to college. And my teacher, Miss Angela Lowe, out of Baytown, Texas, man, she was the epitome of what an executive should. She gave us. People thought she acted like the guards And I said, nah. I say this is what your supervisor, your executive chef, will behave like because they want the best from you in society.
How
So
many
yeah,
people finish that program?
you're selected. You're basically selected because of good behavior and everything, or if you could pay for the colleges, or you sign a promissory note saying upon your release that you'll be able to pay it, you'll pay it back or whatnot. And out of 14 of us, because of course throughout that time, some people get snatched and go home. They make parole, they go home. So out of 14 of us, six of us graduated.
Damn, that's really good. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot more than, especially if you're having people removed or out or getting
Yes.
home.
Yeah.
That's still a lot.
Exactly.
So, are you guys doing a lot of knife skills in there? Are they worried about somebody getting
Every
stabbed or what's going on there?
and that's and they view your disciplinary record and everything, and they look at your charge and all that. Of course, everything is examined,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but you learn everything. You learn every fundamental. You learn the safety and sanitation. You learn the fundamentals of baking. You learn your fundamentals to garde manger. You learn your fundamentals to knife skills. You have your pasta yeast, your yeast and breads, your pastas and your grains. You have all that. You even have your capstone at the end of the class where you have to do a full course meal and present it before the board, and not even the board, not parole board, but the board of the college.
Damn, that's awesome. So you
Yeah.
actually, and then you did that, and then you came out and then went to another culinary program. Is that correct?
I went. Yes, I went to St. Philip's College
Okay.
and graduated.
So you have
Graduated
an
from St. Philip's
associate's
College.
degree. Is that what it is?
And
In
yes, in
culinary arts?
culinary arts.
That's
Yes.
freaking outstanding. I love that. And we always get I get asked, is culinary school worth it, and so on and so forth.
Yes, it is.
I think there's so many different avenues we could go down. I think it does give you a huge base of knowledge that on the right technique, the right way to make it, the generally accepted right way to make things. So I think that, and you coming
I think
out
they get.
and getting
Go
a
ahead.
degree, man, that is there's some people that don't even do that, like, and they
Do
don't
you
have all
do
that
you
stacked
know
against them.
do you know that the like a lot of people ask me, they say, man, do you know which one do you choose, the Art Institute of Culinary, CIA?
CIA.
And I tell them I don't choose neither. And they say, why? Because you went to St. Philip's? I said, because I went to St. Philip's, because it was a community college, and because they had culinary arts. And more or less in your culinary arts degree, you learn not only everything in food, but you have to take psychology, you got to take criminology, you got to take sociology, you got to take all these other business law. Those are mandated by the curriculum to gain a culinary arts degree. You know what I'm saying? So you're looking at every aspect because if you're an executive chef and I've been through this several times since I've been home as an executive chef underneath Chef Johnny, and like you got employees who are using drugs,
Yeah.
for instance, they're coming with a warped mindset. So you have to play on that and either do I send them home and get them pissed off, or
Mm-hmm.
do I remove them from their position and put them in a less hazardous spot, meaning the dish pit, or go tell them to clean, go tell them to be a material
Yeah,
handler
get
for
them
today.
into something that they can focus on and not ruin the
Exactly,
food, kind of thing.
exactly.
And plus, there's one thing I think you might be leaving out. It is expensive. It's really expensive.
Yeah.
And if you can do it at
See,
a community college level and pay a quarter
yeah,
or half the price, dude,
half the price exactly.
I'm still paying. I'm still paying. I mean, I know I've got 4 kids, and it took a long time to get where I am now. But we
Yeah.
still write a check every month for that degree I got back in 99, 2000, 2000, somewhere in there.
Wow.
2001, I think, because I had so many credits. I transferred with, like, I was in community college forever, and I just couldn't pick a major. I would go in and I would fail. I was just so bad at school. I didn't find my way until I, like, decided I was going to do this. I was just kind of this lost guy. And, I was good at certain things. I thought I wanted to be a stand-up comedian, but my dad wasn't having it. He's like, no, you're going to college. You're going to get a degree, because he didn't get a degree. And he wanted to be sure that, back then, 25, 30 years ago, if you didn't have a degree, oh man, it was like controversial. Now I think there's a tide that's changing where people are like, well, not everybody should, get $70,000 worth of debt to get a psychology degree or whatever you're working on. And you came out, Chef Johnny gave you a chance, and you basically have hit the ground running, like, since then. And you pulled off the junior chef competition. How many total students were inside that junior chef competition?
The first year, the one, our first one was 14 students. Because, right. and I started going off the venue size, because I started seeing that not all the culinary wings at these different schools were the same size. Mm-hmm. So the first year was 13, 14 students. The second year we had 8 students, because size of the kitchen. The third year and the fourth year we had 12 last year, and the year before that we had 6.
Okay, so you do it
size of the kitchen.
So based off what you can get, and don't stop. Yes. Don't stop. I know that I gotta get you guys your care package. Now, you're out. You're working. There's when you told me that they were growing fresh food inside the system, I think my head almost exploded, because some of the guys I worked with, I mean, they would talk about Tuna Tang, where that was what they called it. I remember this recipe distinctly, because it would be a can of our smoked oysters, depending on how much money you had, right? And then they would get a pack of ramen and a bag of like barbecue chips or corn chips or something, and then they would take and fill it up with water, and they would add the spice of the packet of ramen and add the tuna, and then like mix it up. Or like peanut butter and bologna sandwiches, on white bread. Now this is in Florida, so I'm sure I don't know that they were growing anything, because it was like bologna, white bread, peanut butter, and these concoctions of anything you could get out of the vending machine. But Tuna Tang, I worked with a guy in Miami, and he's like, oh, you ain't never heard of Tuna Tang? No, I have not. And then he's like, okay, this is how you make it. I was like, damn. It
was good.
I mean, he liked it. I didn't mind it either. He made it. He brought all the stuff in and made it. And it was like, it tasted like the seasoning package with a little bit of the tuna finish at the end. So it was like, its name was 100% Tuna Tang. It was tangy and it had some tuna in it. Oh man, the good old days. Yeah, I think one of the things that I love about the kitchen industry is that for most situations, everybody kind of accepts everybody, no matter what. In most situations. Now, I know that that's my perspective of me coming through the ranks, because, like, I'll be 100% honest. I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida, and they're like, if you want to say, like, now in this climate that we're in, everything's on high alert with everything that's been taking place, because we have the protests that are going on right now while we're having this conversation. People are walking the streets, upset and distraught over George Floyd, right? And I'd be remiss not to bring that up, but as growing up as a kid, you were white and black, right? And I grew up lower middle class, probably a little bit closer to the lower. My dad was just a deputy sheriff, and we grew up in an area where everybody's parents kind of looked out for everybody's kids, and it didn't matter, the color it wasn't brought up that much when we were young. And as we got closer to high school, it got a little, there were some race days and people would fight. But I understood the animosity growing up in the South between black people and white people, because it was so, there's so much shit that happened over the years that there's just, and people, there's a lot. Then I go down to South Florida, and you got to remember that's where my wife's from, and I go down there and I start working in these kitchens, and I'm extremely ignorant and naive, and I don't understand the different. And I tell this story to a couple of the culinary schools that I go to and talk. Is I'm working in kitchens, and I understand that I'm the white guy, right? And this is it. And the kitchen reminded me of growing up at Park and Rec, where like you turn your quarter in so you could get the ping pong ball. You might get your ass beat if you don't let somebody else play, or they might take it from you, or they play. You're playing bus meet where you like throw the football up. It was definitely a rough little area, and I understood the structure of like. I was a smart ass kid, so I always had like a flippant comeback, and it kind of kept me from getting my ass beat, but it also kind of got me in trouble a couple of times. Like it just depended on who I was flippant with. And I'm in the kitchen, and everybody speaks Spanish, everybody, and it was very diverse, and I didn't understand. And I remember the day, like one of the guys was being nice to me. This is like me first starting in the kitchen. And the guy, he was talking to somebody, and he goes, "Oh man, fuck that guy, and Puerto Rican." And I was like, I was just like, my whole world went, what? Hold on a second. All you guys speak Spanish. I thought you guys were like all like together. And he's like, no, that man's he's Puerto Rican. He thinks he's better than me. And I'm like, what? And it was just like, wait a minute. Like everybody's got a little bit of animosity towards everybody. It doesn't matter. And I remember just being like, I didn't understand. I didn't know that it was just so foreign. I was so ignorant and naive that I didn't understand that, in that world, this guy held resentment because that guy's from Puerto Rico and he's from Cuba, or this guy's from Mexico and this guy's from Guatemala, or this girl's from Haiti. And there was just so much diversity, and they all worked in the kitchen and all got the job done. And some days they got along, some days they didn't. It was just like normal life, like, and I fell in love with the fact that it didn't matter, 100% really didn't matter, as long as you got your job done. And as long as you were good on the line or good in the kitchen, or your food was flavorful and you didn't let the person down. If you didn't screw up, everybody kind of was like, okay, you good. I'll let you ride in this kitchen. But man, as soon as you screwed up, woo,
it was over.
it was game over. So like I had so much to learn in the environment, because there was just so many nuances, different languages being spoken. I was coming from North Florida, which is a very southern upbringing, very small town. And now I've got people that have, they've done everything they can to get to the United States, and now they're working in a kitchen, and there's a different mindset. There's that hustle mindset. And as a kid, and I think that I always was like I was always trying to make money, or, had a little business. I used to take people's trash out when I was a kid, when we lived in this apartment complex. I'd go knock on everybody's door and be like, I'll take your trash to the dumpster for like 50 cents. And I was always like trying to, or buying now and laters and selling them at school, or, that kind of stuff. Lemon heads, now and laters, what were the hot ones? What was the hot ones? Freak. Because they were in the same little box as the lemon heads. They were lemon heads, and there was like a
Red Hots.
Yeah, Red Hots. So we'd sell that and try to turn money. And I think that in the kitchen, it was it reminded me of growing up a little bit, where everybody was just kind of in it together, but it was hard. The kitchen it's a hard job. I don't know why I like that so much. It gave me a way out too, to a certain extent. It's not that I was climbing from the bottom, but I definitely, it was a struggle. It was a struggle because I was stupid, like I didn't find my way. I'll ask you this, for a self-reflection for me, when you stepped in the kitchen, what was that feeling like? Did it feel like you were finally doing what you're supposed to?
When I first stepped in the kitchen, when I came home, yes.
Or when you were in your program, like
You know,
incarcerated?
even yes, that's what I was going to say. Even while I was incarcerated, just the and this was the crazy part, the science behind, you know, reading a recipe. And I used to tell people like in incarcerated, and while I was incarcerated, like, why would you what makes it better, a tomato sauce? Why do you use the tomatoes for the alkaline and the sugar to balance it out with the vinegar? And they be like, and just the amazement of people's faces when you've been studying all this time, and then you taking what grandma and my mom and your mother taught you, and you ain't even and it makes sense now. You're putting the science together and then to teach someone else, and
What?
then the cold hard feeling is that this dude that I'm teaching has a life sentence, and he's never going home.
Ah, fuck. Ah.
So that impact right there, to know that I left some gems right there, because he's gonna pass that on and pass it on and
Ah.
pass it on,
Do you
and I'm out here.
have you ever thought about going back and trying to teach the class?
Well, after this year, matter of fact, I reached out to Ms. Lowe and several other instructors who still are employed with Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the system here, and I've told them like, hey, I've been home longer than 6 years. I want to go ahead and try to go back into there, not being an instructor, but I could be
Or at least tell your story.
I guess you want to call it liaison. Yeah.
Dude, that
So I've had a chance to go back in and tell my story, but as far as like to be there, showing them and working with them, they say, you got to be out longer than 5 years. Show us that you upstanding citizen in society, and you have that chance to go back in there. So I have that opportunity. So I was going to wait till after this year when I hit my 6 year mark, you know.
man, that hit me pretty hard when you're like you're spreading this wisdom, you're into it, and I remember feeling so alive when I first entered the culinary program, and like just everything, soaking up everything, reading anything I could get my hands on, I was reading it and I was talking about it, and I can imagine that feeling that it's a very similar feeling, almost probably identical, and then you're telling somebody and you know that deep down this man's not getting out to use it. He'll have it,
yeah,
but it won't be put to application where people can taste how good he could. That breaks my heart. Think about it, like one of the things that we do is take care of others in the service industry, and who taught you? Did your mom teach you how to cook?
Standing there watching my mother, my grandmother, my sisters, my aunts, my grandfathers, my uncles, just paying attention. I've always been the one to observe and to analyze and ask questions. That's one thing that my mother taught me. It was like, hey, you know what? She's telling me you talk too much sometimes, because I said, well, Mom, you told me to always ask questions. What I'm saying? I'm never going to be the one to not ask a question, because I don't want to look stupid answering a question and it looks dumb. I'd rather just say I don't know.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I started. I didn't ask a lot of questions in school until I got to culinary school, and then I was like, you can't get me out of here. I got tons of questions. How your mom, when you were inside, was your mom still going through cancer treatment and everything?
Yes. So now she has now she has recovered. She's in remission.
Okay.
For the third time in the last 20 years. Her last bout was matter of fact, her last bout was 2016, my second year, because I got out in the end of 2014.
Okay.
So 2016, she had her last bout on Thanksgiving Day. Man, it was crazy, because I just talked to her the night before. Just picked up some sweet potato pies from her, and we found her unconscious in her home at the time on Thanksgiving Day, and she had her. That was the third time she had the brain aneurysms and the brain cancer, and
Okay, so she had
bacteria.
brain cancer.
Right, yeah, she had brain cancer. Yes,
Oh
and had
Lord,
the
man.
bacteria growing on her spinal cord. So yeah,
Um,
so now she's only functionable now with only 72% of her brain. So she's still able to she doesn't memorize or know like remember a lot, but she can talk. She remembers us at that, you know what I'm saying? But just to try to
yeah, but
tell
she's
her,
not going to
ask
probably
her,
remember to pay the cable bill, but she still remembers you, kind of thing. Then, and
yes,
she's alive. Like brain
yes,
cancer with the bacteria coming down the spine. Was she making every? Was she making the pies for Thanksgiving Day thing that you're doing, or just for your family at this time?
oh, at the time it was just for the family.
Okay, so she's still alive. She's got 72% of her brain. Everybody can now take a deep breath. I know that you brought that up earlier, and we just skated right over it. I probably should have said, "How's your mom doing?" How many brothers, sisters do you have in the family?
It's six of us. It's three girls and three boys. Man, and it's kind of crazy.
Well, yeah, big families always have a lot going on.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
with
It's
our four, there's always something.
always somebody like my sister Adele. Just like she just believes that she's the best cook, and she is. Matter of fact, if you see in the pictures from last year's junior chef competition, my sister was one of the white coats because I called her in and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
look, since you think you better than me, you know how to cook better than me. Come on and do this competition. I need you to be a coach. And man, when I tell you that my sister is like, I guess the tree don't fall too far, the fruit don't fall too far from the tree because like me and my sister, we worked very well together. As far as me being the overseer of the competition, I watched her from afar, and the way she maintained and managed her team was the same way I would have did it. And I know it
Ah,
would have made my mom proud if my mother was able to come.
mm-hmm.
So she is a great. Adele's good. She's all right.
She's all
Now
right. We're
she's
not going to
great.
give her
She's
too
great.
much credit, but she's all right. Now,
Yeah.
I asked probably a strange question because I know the answer to it to people that are tuning in. I said, was it for your Thanksgiving? Now, not only did you launch and do the junior chef competition, you also put on a Thanksgiving Day dinner for people in the neighborhood. And how many years have you been doing this?
This year will be 4 years.
4 years. And how many people are you feeding on Thanksgiving?
On Thanksgiving. Now
That
that's the crazy part because the first year we went from having 62 people in total to as it grew up to 500, and the biggest one we had was we got up to almost 700 people. And what was crazy was that we had to put a limit on. We had to put an RSVP on it. And what we do is not just your ordinary Thanksgiving dinner. If you see the from seeing the pictures,
mm-hmm.
We don't ask nobody to come in formal. We don't ask nobody to come dressed up in the suits and ties and none of that stuff there. Um, that's only for my board members and my directors of my nonprofit. But this Thanksgiving dinner that I throw is called the Community Youth Empowerment Thanksgiving Dinner that is sponsored every year by myself, my company World Lowly Incorporation, Rising Star Incorporation, the Prince Hall Masonic Affiliates, Chef Johnny at times when he's able, and Anne Marie Catering. And it's to teach the youth. They have speakers who give them encouraging words, and at the same time, they sit at a formal table setting because I believe that our children nowadays don't know what a salad fork is and a dessert spoon is, and so
Well, when we made it to San Antonio and we were chatting and I was trying to get learn as much from you as I could on all this stuff that you're doing. The way you explained it, you said some of these kids have not only never had Thanksgiving, they've sat at a table that has a tablecloth on it.
exactly.
They don't know what
Right
linen is or why there's more than one fork or why is it set here. And you didn't just feed them a Thanksgiving dinner. You took the opportunity, and this is why I'm just utterly impressed with your mind, because I forget the gentleman's name that owns the Oak Hill. It's Oak Hill Tavern. What is it?
Oak Hills Tavern. Executive Chef David Gates.
Yeah. So David's looking at me. He goes, "Look, man." He goes, "It's incredible." He's like, "The one thing that I will have to tell you is when Milas puts his mind to it, he's just gonna fucking do it." That's exactly how he said it. I was like, yeah, man. He wrote me this letter, and it was really sweet, and I thought I could help out, and I just wanted to meet him. And he said he was in prison, and he's like, no, he was in some hardcore shit, dude. That's me impersonating, like. And he's like, but I'm gonna tell you what, if he puts his mind to it, it's gonna happen. That's all I can tell you. And he's like, it's amazing what he's done. And he goes, and then we started, because you were in the back making some of the food, and then you come out and we started talking, and you go, well, it's not just about them getting the dinner. It's them actually broadening their horizons and seeing things that they've never seen before. And I often feel blessed that that we moved out to where we are now, because the kids are being exposed to things that they'd never get to see. They're not going to be that naive, ignorant kid from Tallahassee going down and like realizing that, there's a lot of diversity in a kitchen. Just because you speak the same language doesn't mean you get along. I don't know why that was so earth-shattering, but when I look back on it, it's just ignorance. I was just straight ignorant in that moment, and it's not because of lack of, or it is because of lack of. Like you mentioned, in one of your interviews, you said there was no positive role modeling for how to do things properly in your family, in your youth, in your family, in the neighborhood, in the streets, whatever you wanted to call it. You're like, so I did what I knew how to do and try to take care of my mom who was battling cancer. That was the reason behind it. That's the question behind the question. And I was recently talking to a group of culinary students, and this might have been about 4 or 5 months ago. And the funny thing is that I was talking about business. Now that's what I am now. It's like I started as a chef, but now I'm more of a businessman, a leader in studying budgets and all this other stuff. As a kid, I wanted to be rich. I wanted money. I didn't want to worry about bills because money was such a hot topic, right? Like everything was tight. In the summers, I'd live with my grandparents, and they lived off their Social Security. I stood in line to get honey, cheese, vitamins, milk, because that's the way it was. We things to the penny, and then it wasn't like we had money we didn't want for anything, but it was always tight. And I wanted to be rich. And the only way I thought that I could be rich is to be famous. Like that was like if I want to make money, it wasn't that it was like go be a businessman, open your own business, go do this. It was like, you got to be famous. I wasn't going to be an athlete. I wasn't going to play ball or football. I was like I played tennis, and I was never going to do anything with that. So you have to kind of be exposed to this stuff or see the opportunity. It's very rare for you to have that of like, I'm just going to open my own business and hustle, and business owner. I thought the only way to be rich was to be famous. So I think that's probably, and when you wrote or made it happen for dinner, most people would have stopped there. You would have been like, look, kids, here's turkey, stuffing, some potatoes, and some gravy, and some pie. You guys, this is Thanksgiving. That's how it's done. But you didn't just stop there. You're like, I need to expose them to things that are going to enlighten them and help them see that there's more out there than what they're used to. Like really get to touch the tablecloth and go, there's all this stuff. And you said, well, we go through that so they see it. I was just like, that is so damn amazing. It's awesome. And also, don't stop doing it, man. Just keep at it. Keep at it.
Yeah.
I will put all your tags and stuff inside this video when we put it up, and make sure that if people want to follow you, they can follow you on Instagram and stuff like that. Yeah. And just keep up with you and watch you kind of just blaze the trail that you're on. And it's been so good just kind of catching up, because it's been a while since we've actually had it. Well, we talked on the way to San Antonio, and then we've texted a lot, back and forth, just checking in and, seeing what we can do for the kids every summer. And I think it needs to be more often. Now, if someone's watching this and they're considering either going to school or starting in the kitchens, which is a normal thing that I get. What kind of advice would you pass on to that young cook?
The advice that I would pass on, going there. I mean, I give you the advice that has worked for me, that Chef Johnny gave me. Head down, ears open, hands moving. Learn humility, learn humbleness, learn just get yes chef and heard in your system, because that'll take you a long way.
Okay, I'm pretty sure you probably didn't watch our Memorial Day show, and I was talking with a friend, Danny, who works for us with me out here, and had Joe, who's our R&D group on ECO. So he's in our research and development brigade for ECO, and he was on, and he asked us the question, hey, what 3 skills would you tell culinary students? And we basically just said exactly that. It's not, have some good knife skills, but really have a great attitude and be willing to learn from others and have humility, and don't be a jackass. Don't be so cocky that nobody wants to work with you. I wish I would have. That's probably what I'd tell my young self, is don't be such a all the time. Yeah. Words are great, but you don't have to be a sociopath to get them. That would be my learning thing. Dude, I have enjoyed chatting with you so much about just your journey in general.
Man, thank you.
It was the one thing that I kind of wish that I had the opportunity to do is, like, when we were chatting in San Antonio, and you go, I said, is there anything else I can do for you? And you're like, hey, could you make it to my graduation? I really wish.
I asked you that.
Yes, dude.
I did.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, I wish I could. When is it? Let me see. And then I looked, and I was at hockey games, but that would have been something that I would have been really proud at, to see you fight so hard to finally finish. And then, you've worked in a lot of different places. You were flying all around for
Paul, corporate chef Paula Dean.
Yeah. Now, did you ever actually work with her, or how did that go down? How'd you get that job?
That was the craziest part. That was the craziest. Chef Brian West, who was one of my mentors here, Executive Chef Brian West. He knew a chef that was there here at the San Antonio location, and he was like, "Hey, they need help over there. You think you can go over there and try to foot it?" Well, I go over there. I said, "Okay, yeah, I'll see what's up." I go over there, and I get put on the team. And as time went on, they said, "Well, we're opening up these restaurants over in Florida, Destin, Panama City." And I was like, "Well, that'd be a cool thing, And it went from all the directors of operations and everybody seeing everybody's worth that. They said, like, "Hey, you come here. We heard about you. You're incognito. You're trying to play under the radar. You're trying to play us. You're under the radar." I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, "Nah. Come on over here. Get on this side, and you're going to start learning the logistics on how to open up a restaurant and all this other stuff and all this and how we want it done." And I'm like, "Okay, pay raise, this, and this." Put me on the flight. I stayed in Panama City for a whole month. I had to fly out. I had to fly back to San Antonio.
That's only an hour and 35 minutes from my house, my home.
Wow.
So you got this. That's what we call the Redneck Riviera when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Panama City. I know that place pretty well.
City, man.
Spinnaker and all sorts of crazy stuff.
It was crazy, and I remember because I'm still currently on parole, and I had to stay there for 2 weeks, fly back to San Antonio,
and talk with your parole officer. Was your PO cool with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get here. I had to get here at 8:00. See my PO. I had to leave the airport at 8. Be back here at 8 to see my PO at 9:00. Get my letter. Hurry up and get back to the back to the airport by 2:00 that afternoon, so I could be back in Panama City by 7. Oh my God!
So you could set the line that evening. Oh my goodness! Was it a good experience working for that company?
It was because regardless good or bad, regardless
Mm-hmm.
success or fail. You have to go into anything, relationship or work or whatever, and you look for the good in it, and you hold on and you cherish it. You look at the mistakes and you look at where they could have lacked, where they could have done better, and if you choose to do those type of things, you do it and you execute it because you've seen what
Mm.
didn't work and what should have worked. It was a lot of times that I had my input there, and of course, they were the bigger wigs who knew more than I did, and I didn't have the money like they had the money, and so my how you say, my voice went unheard, and it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Well, but at the same time, it went in your notebook, and it went in there for
Exactly.
you to go.
It
Okay,
did.
when I'm running my place, or next time I
Mhm.
do this, I do
I
that.
want
And I think I've
exactly.
learned more from my fails. Even my failures have taught me much. I guess I can leave it at that.
Yeah.
Listen, dude, it has been
Yeah.
an amazing conversation, and I would, before we stop, is there anything that you would like to pass on to the listeners that are tuning into this show today?
Okay. I always say my favorite quote, but I'm not gonna say that quote.
Okay.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say something else. I'm gonna say the recipe of life. You know, every time that you look at a person, always remember that the person is a recipe. You're an ingredient. You are an ingredient. If you have children, you are an ingredient. If you are a chef, know one thing. You are the major component to your family's healthiness, their wellness. The chef life, I could say this, it's a blessing and it's a curse. It
Amen.
has made me and it has tore my family apart. Um, you have to find time to breathe. You have to find time to know who you are. Do not lose yourself
Oh man.
in the sauce. Do not lose yourself in the jacket. Do not, because it's a hell of a thing when you cook so much food all day, you haven't eaten a meal, and you come home and wife, she's asleep, but she's made you a plate, and all you want to do is eat cereal milk.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yep.
don't lose yourself. Find time to enjoy life, because that's one of the things, the I don't one of the pitfalls, I guess, is this the curse of this chef life, man. It tore my family apart. But at the end of the day, too, it's rebuilding. It's the rebuilding process. So just know that everything is a recipe, and either you're the recipe and you need the ingredients to help you become stronger, or you're the ingredient to make sure that someone is successful in life.
I'm speechless, brother. That was. I'm glad you didn't stick with your quote. I don't even know what your quote was, but that hit me on like so many levels. I think that's something that I'm going to put on our R&D group. I cannot thank you enough for this time. I got to chop that up.
Love
That
you,
is
man.
a sound. That is a sound bite, dude. I love you, brother. I appreciate you spending the time with me. We'll
I
have you
love
back
you.
on and talk about more stuff. More things that are happening in the industry, what's happening out there. But this first interview with you, I just wanted people to get to know you and hear your story from you with no time restraints, no editing, and just go, man, that guy is something to be admired, impressed with, and just I have an enormous amount of respect and love for you. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Man, I love you. I love every chef out there, man. Let's keep it going strong. And
We have to.
guess what? Like Yoda, like my boy Yoda and them say, man, may the force be with you.
Yeah, you
Huh?
got both of them. You got the
Huh?
good and the bad,
I
and the
both I
redemption
got
on
the
one
good
shoulder.
and the bad.
Yeah, but remember, Darth
Huh?
Vader came back and said he found the
Yeah.
light. You know what I mean? He
He
balanced the
found the
force.
light.
I always say that if we don't take care of each other, who will? If we don't take care of ourselves, who will? And when I say ourselves, I mean each other in this industry. And it was such a poignant thing that you just said about what ECO is. Now, you guys out there, if you really want to, you can take a time, you can hit the bell, you can subscribe, like this channel, you can follow us on Facebook, you can follow us on Instagram. And if you want to try to make you're better than you were yesterday, today, then try to join the R&D Brigade by ECO. I'm going to tell you right now, there's only a few of us on there, and the goal is to basically make sure that we're all on the path to follow what you want to do with your life, and we're going to help you guys get there. So, Milas, thank you so much for your time. Can't thank you enough. And until next time, guys, cheers.
Love.